So on to stage one. When for those of you who have taken previously the trauma competency course, I spent a lot of time on this talking about the two primary components of stage one, which are positive expectancy and therapeutic relationship, and go into actually skills development around implementing those capacities. I'm not going to do that with this course, but I do need to talk about them because forward-facing trauma therapy will not work without them. That these are two crucial ingredients. And start with positive expectancy. Oops. And this is an article from Price and Anderson in 2012, and they talked about kind of looking at the history of positive expectancy and looking and showing that good front end positive expectancy, being able to elicit the belief with your client that because they're coming to see you, good things are going to happen for them, is a crucial aspect of treatment. We are the ambassadors of hope. That's our job in the first couple of sessions, is that if we cannot, with language, be able to create a vision in our clients of an alternative to the death march that they're on, they will likely not come back for treatment. That is a high predictor for attrition, is that the more positive expectancy you have, the less attrition you have. And that's pretty cool. So it is incumbent upon us to, and, thinking about positive expectancy, that the formula for success in your life is doing stuff you don't want to do. The more of the stuff you do, more of the stuff you don't want to do, the more successful you are. It's a pathway to success. And the people that do more of the stuff that they don't want to do, working out, research, that if you've read Stephen Covey, that third quadrant stuff that's important but not urgent, the more of that we do, the more successful that we are. And how much easier is it to do the stuff you don't want to do when you know that there's going to be a positive outcome from having done the stuff you don't want to do? It's a lot easier to do. It is the grease. It's the lubrication. It's what helps us to walk into things that we're afraid of, or the things that we are antagonistic towards. And what is psychotherapy if it's not helping your clients do the stuff that they don't want to do? Now, there are some clearly some technical aspects to positive expectancy, and hope building. How do you do that? Well, take a motivational interviewing course. There's a whole lot of good ones offered online. It's really worthwhile for you to get into some of those, and you learn the four kind of techniques of building positive expectancy, of building motivation. Those are the ability to express empathy instead of judgment, being able to kind of help them to see that you can see it from their perspective instead of challenging them, building collaboration instead of confrontation, especially early on. Confrontation, you can only do confrontation when you got enough currency relationally that you can spend down some of it. Support self-efficacy, so helping them to come to their own understanding of what's right and what's wrong and what action to take for themselves. I have a friend of mine that does that really, really well. He says, he does confrontation and this self-efficacy building, where he goes, I don't know about you, but when I do this, this is what happens. Well, what happens for you when you do that? I mean, that's nice motivational interviewing capacity there. The third one is rolling with resistance, and the fourth one is building discrepancy. Discrepancy meaning helping your clients to see where they have a vision of who they are and where they want to go, and then helping them to see where they are not who they want to be or where they want to go, of starting to outline the places where they are in conflict with themselves, and just holding that up there without being directive. Those are all motivational interviewing technical skills that you can build hope by doing that, and help your clients get engaged in the process. But diagnosis of PTSD from 1980 until 2013, one of the diagnostic criteria was a sense of foreshortened future. And a sense of foreshortened future in shorthand is hopelessness. It is the inability to have hope. And so how do you get hope into the hopeless? There's the rub. I mean, we can do all the technical stuff, but there has to be something beyond just the technical. And what I believe that to be, and after 10,000 clients and 35 years of doing this, more than 10,000, I'm quite certain that it is that my clients need to feel that in me. They need to have, their little mirror neurons need to know that I have surety that they can recover. And if they walk through this process, I am certain that they're going to get better. Now, how do you get that? Well, there's two parts that go with that. One is the front end, which is that I need to kind of bring forward my hope that I am sitting there with manufacturing, is probably a better way to say that, positive expectancy. The back end is that you need to treat some people and be successful. That's what builds that, is that the more successful I am at treating folks and the more experience I have with that, and when I start finding stuff that works, and it works with everybody, and I know today that if my clients will practice self-regulation, they won't be distressed anymore. So, and it's to know that it's physiologically impossible to have distress when you have a relaxed muscle body, that lets me be pretty darn hopeful about the treatment, that I know this will work for you. And my clients feel that, and they have an intuitive sense that I'm not selling them a bunch of stuff. I got a call from, this was kind of cool. I got a call from the director of Special Forces, Wounded Warrior folks. And he was telling me about that some of his, I do a lot of, I don't know if those of you are watching this, but I do a lot of work with compassion fatigue. And he called me up and said, I'm Colonel so-and-so. And he said, you spoke 4 or 5 years ago for us. And I wanted to talk to you about maybe doing some work for my contractors, because one of the things that's happening with them is that they're what Special Forces does is pretty neat. They have ex-Special Forces veterans who, when a Special Forces soldier is injured, they put a mentor who is a Special Forces veteran with them. And that person works as helping them to kind of walk through this process of recovery and healing. And it's a pretty neat project. One of the things that's happening is these contractors, as they are hearing stories and walking through this stuff with them, is they're getting triggered. They're getting activating their own primary trauma and getting secondarily traumatized from listening to the stories of their folks. And he was asking me if I'd be willing to come down next February and do some work with these contractors. But before he said that, and one of the things that I really appreciated was, he said, we had a bunch of speakers that day at a workshop, and he said that most of them were mental health professionals, and he said, you're the only one that didn't peak the bullshit meters of the contractors that were sitting in that training. And that was a pretty nice compliment was that what those combat veterans were doing was that they had the felt sense that I was congruent, that I knew this stuff worked, and that I was bringing them something to be of service to them, not self-aggrandizement, not trying to work out my issues, not trying to call favor from them, but instead to bring them something that was useful. And that's what I endeavored to do with my clients. And I think that, after 35 years, I've gotten to do that with a little bit of grace. Not a lot, but a little bit of grace. So last thing I want to say about positive expectancy is I had his picture on the history, but I didn't introduce him. And that's Victor Funkel. And everything I do is standing on his shoulders. His spirit is infused in every single time I see a client, every training I do, every paper I write. It's with the help of Victor. He's one of the greatest mentors of my life, and his work has moved me. And, Victor was a neurologist in Vienna, was captured in 1941 and spent 3.5 years interned in two of the worst Nazi death camps, Auschwitz and Dachau. Starved, tortured without clothing during the polar winters, forced at gunpoint to perform atrocities. Pretty horrible set of circumstances for a person to live through. And any of you who have read Man's Search for Meaning, you know what a compelling read that is. What a testament to the indomitability of the human spirit. And when you read that book, what you start seeing is a few pages into it, there's the narrative, him describing the horror and squalor of Auschwitz with beautiful language. It's almost poetry. It's really beautifully written. And he's describing the horror and squalor of being in a Nazi death camp. But he also starts talking about, in this kind of separate narrative that goes all the way through the book, about how he's able to find consistently joy, peace, purpose, meaning, and love in a Nazi death camp. And it's my bias. He doesn't say this, but it's my bias that if you have regular daily experiences with joy, peace, purpose, meaning, and love, you've got some degree of quality of life, no matter the external context. So Victor has given me one of the greatest gifts that I could be given as a trauma survivor. I mean, I am that, but as a trauma therapist. And this is what Victor's taught me, and it is my desire to give it to you. That no matter who you are, no matter how many times you've been sexually assaulted, no matter how many limbs you've lost in combat, no matter what life-sucking disease you are afflicted with and how few days you have left to live, if you've got, brain cancer and you're not going to live for the rest of the week, you're going to die in the next week. What I'm absolutely certain of is that today, independent of the external context, no matter how bad it is out there, joy, peace, purpose, meaning, and love is available to you here, right now, today. And as a change agent, that's one of the most important things that I have. Is early on in my career, I got so bowled over by my clients' pain and trauma history that I got so scared that I could not stay hopeful for them. I could not continue to believe. But today, knowing this, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how bad things are. I still am charged with the responsibility. If they're going to come to see me, it's still my responsibility to help them to have a better quality of life. How do I do that? Well, I help them to take their attention off of what is outside of their control, and I help them put their attention on where they have power. And when a person stops trying to control what's out of their control and begins to move into acceptance with what is outside of their control and begins to develop capacity for self-regulation, and then goes looking for love, peace, purpose, meaning, and joy, they start finding it. It's available to them here and now. And that has served me really well, to be able to sit across from folks who have had really horrible lives. I mean, really bad stuff has happened to them. And Victor has allowed me to keep my belief incandescent for their recovery, is that no matter how negative, how afraid, how hypervigilant that they are, I still believe. And that's something that Victor has given me. And hopefully, as we get into the actual process of forward-facing trauma therapy, that you'll see his spirit infused in that. Okay, that's positive expectancy. Oh, yeah, because this is also what forward-facing trauma therapy is built upon. This was, if Joseph Volpe is one brick, then here's the other brick in the foundation, is this quote from Viktor Funkel: between stimulus and response, there's a space, and that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. In that space, in the space between stimulus and response, well, trauma survivors don't have any space. They don't have that. So they can't choose their response. They can't have growth and freedom because they don't have neocortical functioning to be able to make choice. Because what happens with trauma survivors is they've had such painful learning that they have stimulus. And then that stimulus is perceived as a threat, and their arousal goes up so high, they lose neocortical functioning, boom, and the space slams shut. So what they have is stimulus that is paired with reactivity, that is paired with an instinctual response of aggression or avoidance to get them out of that situation so that they don't need to confront perceived threat anymore. And those are behaviors that are procedural memory. They were learned in the past, and they are they are employed instinctually, not intentionally. And what we're going to do with forward-facing trauma therapy, it's what it does, is we're going to widen out that space. We're going to help them to have a few seconds of time in the middle of being confronted with all of these myriad of things out there in their lives, whatever's going on out there. And we're going to help them to do something here so that they retain neocortical functioning, and they can start to say to themselves, who and how do I want to be when people are criticizing? Who and how do I want to be when I don't have enough money to pay the bills for this month? Who and how do I want to be when my children are not acting the way that I want them to? And to be able to decide that and to walk through that situation now, restarting development, growing, and being free from our past to be able to choose who and how we want to be. And when I do training, live training, this is where I say these words. Hopefully I've established my credentials as a practitioner scientist, kind of done good foundational work in science as I demonstrated to you early. Now let me embrace the spiritual side of this work. And, when I am doing trauma therapy right, I'm a midwife. The result of good trauma therapy is not the resolution of symptoms. That's what you get when you do trauma therapy, right? But that's not the goal. That's not the end product. The end product is that we grow people that are able to be who and how they choose to be in all the different contexts of their lives. They are able to have fidelity to their principles. What we're doing is that we're birthing selves. We are midwives. We are birthing a person with an internal locus of control from a place of choice, rather than a person who is conscripted to act in the present in the ways that their painful past experiences have programmed them to be here. That what we're going to do is widen out that space and help them to break the chain of all this painful past programming and to decide who and how they want to be for the rest of their lives. And that's cool. That's what we're doing. Okay, forward. Therapeutic relationship. I got certified in reality therapy in 1989, way back in the day with Bill Glasser. And it was, I don't know, it was several $1,000s, and probably the most valuable thing that I got from those 3+ years that I was involved in getting certified with reality therapy was two things. And this quote was one of them. I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. And the other one is, I have a suggestion that might be helpful. Would you like to know what it is? That little nugget has been a really useful way to be able to offer advice when you're seeing something that your client can't see. I always try to do the self-efficacy piece, but if I'm seeing something that's going to cause them harm or difficulty, it's ethical and incumbent upon me to be able to tell them that. And that's one of the ways that I am able to tell them that, and to code it in a sweeter coding that is that doesn't elicit their fear and shut down. So therapeutic relationship, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that, obviously. But where I want to direct you to is Scott Miller's work. And I believe that feedback-informed therapy should be done. The F's are problems for me. That forward-facing trauma therapy should be done on the platform of feedback-informed treatment. We should be collecting data about the quality of the therapeutic relationship, and specifically negative data about the quality of the therapeutic relationship and the therapeutic process, eliciting from our clients what it is that is less than perfect that they would like for us to change. And then in a collaborative way, us changing to deliver a treatment that is more fitted to our clients. So it's just too long to try to go into doing this process. If this is intriguing for you, then take one of Scott's classes. Go to one of his I forgot, clinical summits is what he calls those. And they're just wonderful. And I really, really strongly suggest that you avail yourself to Scott Miller's work and learn how to practice therapy deliberately. And just check this out: double effectiveness. That this is the most potent form of psychotherapy that there is using feedback-informed therapy. It doesn't matter what model you use. It matters how much you are deliberately managing the course of therapy to be fitted with their clients. And, it's kind of going back to that. If students don't learn the way we teach, maybe we got to teach the way they learn. Well, if clients don't get better the way we treat them, maybe we got to learn how to treat them to do better treatment. And the way we learn is that we elicit feedback. And the way that process works is it's a 3-step process. Let me get my picture out of the way here. Is we collect empirical data. That's quantitative data. Evaluating the quality of the therapeutic process and therapeutic relationship. David Burns, is that his name? No. Burns. What's his first name? Yeah, I think it's David. Feeling good? He's got a handout that does this, and it's pretty involved. It's a lot of questions on it. Scott Miller has the SRS, which is the session rating scale. It's 4 items, and you can get both the SRS and the ORS, the outcome rating scale, for free if you go to Scott's website. And here's the website, www.scottdmiller.com. And if you'll go to FIT Measures Licensing on one of the menu tabs that says that, click that, and you'll get an email back with those instruments and so a little bit of literature on how to implement it. And I strongly suggest you find some other people that are doing that. I'm hoping to, sometime over the next year, do a supervision course on feedback-informed therapy with treating traumatic stress. That'll be distance learning. That would be another option. Or come to or do our online version of the competencies, and I go into how to get started. You really can't do, it's really hard to do feedback-informed therapy solo. You really need to be, for me, it took 18 months of supervision at 48 years old, and however many years I've been in the field, 28 years in the field. I found that I could not practice feedback-informed therapy just on my own doing it. I stopped doing it because of how uncomfortable it made me. It's hard, scary. It demands that you tolerate narcissistic injury. But it's also really potent and really powerful for making change happen. So once we collect that data, we generate honest feedback on how, and this is, as I said, that this is insert negative feedback. Your clients are afraid of you, especially in early treatment. They're going to give you all kinds of really good feedback because they're afraid of you disappointing, you being disappointed in them or critical of them or anything else, so that they are going to lavish you with praise. And then as you begin to become familiar with them, they start finding your shortcomings. And sometimes those shortcomings of yours get in the way of your client being able to hear the message because the messenger is clouding it up. And we need to be able to elicit that from our client and find out the ways that that the messenger is getting in the way of the message, and change it and evolve and grow and fit better to that client. So you don't get necessarily, it's a roll of the dice, you don't get good therapeutic relationships simply by turning on the Carl Rogers machine and be warm and empathetic and transparent and all those things that Rogers talked about. You get the positive therapeutic relationship by finding out what's negative and changing it. There it is. I mean, in short order, making it even simpler than these 3 steps is find out what you're doing wrong and change it. Wrong vis-a-vis your client. Right, probably, maybe by, what you learned in school, but you can do what is right by the research, and your patient, the operation was successful and the patient died. So in order to have good outcomes from treatment, we have to adjust ourselves to our clients, and we need to build truly a collaborative relationship where we are doing therapy with each other. I am stop doing what feedback-informed therapy facilitates is that if you're doing feedback-informed therapy, you are no longer doing therapy to the client. You balance the power. It forces that to become a collaborative process, and that pays dividends in outcomes and engagement. And that is the single most important thing that you can do for being able to enhance the quality of to enhance your outcomes and enhance the quality of your therapy is practice and utilize feedback-informed therapy. And here is the instrument and what it looks like. and you give this at the end of the very first session, and all sessions after the first one at the end. Take the last 2 minutes to do this, and they will rate you on these 4 things: on the quality of the relationship, on how well you adhere to their goals and topics, on the approach that you use to do that, and then the overall session. And the first time you do this, it will have your clients will do this almost always. And then the 4th time you do it, it looks more like this. 5th time, 6th time, is that the scores begin to drop. And as the scores are dropping, what's happening is that's prima facie evidence that you have built a safe place for your client, that you have, that they are now no longer so afraid of you that they can't be honest with you. You have established a relational bridge that they can now confront you. And for somebody with high A scores, for somebody that has had a lot of developmental trauma, their ability to confront you and step into a collaborative relationship with you, that's nothing short of a miracle. That is a miraculous process. And you are healing and repairing the relational damage from attachment trauma as you do the session rating scale, and then process that at the first 5 minutes of every session. Collect the data at the end of the session, process it at the beginning of the next one of what did I do or not do in last week's session that caused you to score this one. You always pick the lowest score that caused you to score this one a little bit lower than all the other ones. Would you please help me define what it was that I did or didn't do that we can change in today's session to make it a little bit more satisfying for you, to move that just up a tick or two, just a little bit further? Because my goal, in the words of my friend and colleague and partner in this wonderful venture we're on, Bob Roden, he says that his mission is to suck a little bit less each day. And that's what the session rating scale is about, is for me to, with this client, suck a little bit less each session, little bit, moving it down the road. Even though the funny thing about that is that the better that I'm getting with my clients, the better that I'm hitting the target with the clients, the more the scores on the SRS go down. Outcome scores go up, but the SRS goes down. And that's an interesting phenomenon. So that's how you get and maintain the therapeutic relationship. And you can see that what we've done, if you're doing this, you've established that positive expectancy. You're starting out therapy on the right foot. Your client's ready to learn from you now. They're ready to engage in this process. And so let's go on to stage 2.